lyrics.
I'll even take it further. I don't know the name of anybody that doesn't make songs that I don't like. So like,
Right.
There's a whole generation of guys that like exist in like 1 minute clips on Instagram where dudes playing like cello, piano, guitar, drums, and it all fits together in this thing. But I'm like, but what song did you make? That's the thing that's gonna live forever. Your Instagram clip ain't.
Yeah, it's the Almanac of Rap show. I got opinions and they all factual. No news, just information that you won't be able to use unless you're at a dinner party trying to impress who's in attendance with endless tidbits of nonsense. We're gonna have a good time, I promise. YouTube rabbit holes, Reddit deep dives, pulling out old interviews from the archives. Styles, fads, trends, all of that. It's the Almanac of Rap.
Welcome to the Almanac of Rap, the show with a cutting room floor the size of a warehouse. I'm your host, Donwill, and today's episode is a little bit different than usual. It's a collage of moments that were left out of previous audio episodes. Some of the pieces were left out for the sake of brevity, others because they didn't suit the needs of the conversation we were having, and some were held for exactly this moment. Today you'll hear from Masta Ace, Michael Holman, and Jake One. First up to bat is Masta Ace. Earlier in the season, we talked to him about his journey to Broadway and adapting his album into a stage play. But something that didn't make it into the episode was the following portion of him talking about the car culture of New York City in the 90s and ghostwriting for Will Smith. And here's that part of our conversation. As a Midwesterner, I was very shocked and pleased to find out that New York had a car culture. There was like a period where it was about cars and Jeeps and like a type of music. My question for you, what are Jeep beats? If you had to like give me the sonic qualities of a Jeep beat, what makes a beat a Jeep beat?
So it's a beat that makes those 15 and 12-inch woofers in the back of the Jeep rattle the windows and rattle the rearview mirror. So when you're trying to look in the rearview mirror, you can't even see the image because
it's just like blurry.
Yeah, those are Jeep beats, and not all beats, especially nowadays. Like there's none. Music don't have bottom no more because everybody's EQing based on headphones, based on AirPods. We EQ'd based on the sound system in the car.
The car test.
Yes, I specifically remember being at some Gangstar mixing sessions, me and Primo, and we would go from D&D down to his Mazda MPV, put the tape in, turn the volume all the way up. If we couldn't feel it like in our chest, be like, nah, let's go back upstairs, tweak, add some more bass, some more bottom, some more thump, go back downstairs, put it in again, listen. Okay, yeah, now we got it. That was the test.
Following that thread of the New York car culture, I was fairly adult when I heard about Funkmaster Flex's car show and stuff like that. But like, were there like hood car shows, like streets where everybody cruised to and kind of showed off their whip and everything? Like, where was that happening at here?
So for New York, that was happening in Harlem, 125th Street. That's the only place I'm aware of where there was a cruise culture, which was 125th Street in front of the Apollo. Specifically on Wednesday night, because that's when the amateur night at the Apollo was being recorded live.
Yeah,
I had a Chevy Blazer with some chrome wheel component rims.
What color?
The Blazer was white. The interior was like a burgundy, reddish burgundy.
Okay.
Had this chrome rims, and then I had two 15s and two 12s in the back. And I would drive up to 125th Street from Brooklyn all the way up to Harlem on Wednesday night just to ride back and forth past the front of the Apollo Theater because when the Apollo Theater would let out, after amateur night would let out, because it was two shows, I believe it was an early show and a late show. I mean, 125th crawling with girls, like, and in my 20s, like, what else is there to do but drive and try to holler at girls?
Yep.
You know, competing with your friends on how many phone numbers you got. You know, I got shorty number. You know, that's just what that time period was. If there were other places in New York where there was cruising like that happening, I'm not familiar with it. There could have been something happening in Queens. I just wasn't aware of it.
Another part of your career I want to talk about is I saw that you had did some writing on Will Smith's Millennium album.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the process of writing for other people? It's kind of like full circle in a way. It's like what you're doing now is writing for actors. Like, did you enjoy the process when it was purely rap?
Well, when I was working on the songs for Millennium, I don't know if I understood what it was, but I didn't view it like I was quote unquote writing for him. I was just presenting songs
Got you.
with the other producers that were there, hoping that he liked the song. And I think that he didn't pick Soda and Soap. I never got a full, clear answer, but I think that he thought, this is my opinion, I don't know the truth. I think he thought that people would know he didn't write that. It was too obvious that somebody else wrote that because of the wordplay and the cleverness of it. The beat was fire. Like, we had Marsha Ambrosius on the hook. Like, it was dope, the original version. But, for whatever reason, he didn't. I wrote 2 songs. I wrote that, and I wrote Brooklyn Masala too in that same time period.
Oh wow!
And so he didn't pick those, which was that's part of you writing for people, writing songs for people. Everybody's not going to pick everything, and so I was like, these songs are too good to just end up on the cutting room floor. So I figured out a way to repurpose them. I re-recorded them to different music. For the most part, kept the same lyrics. I changed a few things, but yeah, that process was a learning experience. But it was also a very creative time period for me because I was still not sure that I wanted to do records again.
Oh shit!
Shortly after that time period, I started working on Disposable Arts.
It seems like the type of process that you got to be comfortable with a little bit of rejection.
Yeah.
But you also have the outlet of putting them out on your own, So
exactly. The one song on that album that I actually got credit as a writer for, there were like 4 of us in the room, Will included. And beat was playing, and everybody's writing their own separate rhymes, and then offering lines. So, how about this line? Oh yeah, I like that line. I'm gonna use that line. So I got a couple of those lines in that session of 4 writers, and at the same time coming up with lines for this song, which was new to me. Like I'd never done that before. Being in a room with 3 other writers, coming up with punch lines and cool lines for a song that collectively became a song that had 5, 6 writers on it. That was a new experience, but it was a cool learning experience for me, something new that I had never done before.
Next up, Michael Holman. In the episode that aired, we discussed how his show Graffiti Rock provided some of the first televised images of hip-hop culture. But we had to trim quite a bit from that interview. So here's the part where he discusses his thoughts on seeing breaking in the Olympics and Fab Five Freddy's importance to hip-hop culture. You said gymnastics and breaking, and that makes me go into a tangent of, did you watch breaking at the Olympics? What did you think of the breaking?
Yeah, of course I did. And one of the reasons why, one of the reasons why I was interviewed on NPR and the New York Times and leading up to breaking in the Olympics is because I'm the person with the New York City Breakers, the crew I created. I'm the person who predicted back in 1983 and put it in my book that breaking would become an Olympic sport. And so people knew that about me and so wanted my opinion about it.
What did you see? Well, I mean, like, we all see it. I see it. Not all of us, but I see it. But what did you see back then that gave you the foresight to be like, this is top tier athleticism in a way that hasn't been experienced and needs to be shared in a competitive way like that, like the Olympics?
Well, it was already competitive. It was, battling was always the critical part of breaking. But, since the 80s, going into the 90s and the 2000s, breaking had evolved and changed quite a bit.
Yo, because even when I think about, like, LA has a huge, like, pop lock boogaloo, like that culture was.
Yeah, but that's not breaking. That came before breaking.
Oh, okay.
That's not breaking. That really. It became part of hip hop, but it really wasn't. It was, locking, popping, the robot, all that stuff came. And I'm from California. That's why I know this. And I was doing those dances in high school, by the way. So that came way before. That came before hip hop.
So
that came before disco.
Yeah, the fact that you were doing those dances probably is what made you even more drawn to the fact that, like, there was this other dance style that you were discovering, that you were seeing called breaking, and it made you want to shine.
Yeah, I was always into dance. The one reason why I was really focused on the dance was because I was a dancer. I loved to dance. I always loved to when James Brown came on the turntables, I'd be on the dance floor doing my thing, doing my splits, I love dancing to disco, all that. I focused mostly on the dance, but I focused on everything else too. Oh, but then you were asking me about what I thought about the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I was really glad that the French Parisian Olympic Committee chose to have breaking in the Olympics. I was really happy about that because, again, I was that person who predicted it would happen and really fought for it to happen in a lot of ways, but wasn't that terribly involved in it as it's, because I just wasn't involved in breaking the way I used to be. But I observed it and watched it. I saw how it was organized, which I wasn't happy about because it was organized by a ballroom dance organization. Was the only organization that had the money to create a international breaking organizations where you could judge different artists and then have them come to the Olympics to compete. So that was a big problem because this ballroom dance organization really didn't understand breaking and didn't keep it true to the form. That was a problem. Breaking as it had been taken over by Red Bull and competitions like that has changed over the years from being crew battles, as you saw in Beat Street, another film that I was heavily involved in, and
man, such an amazing.
Yeah, I second unit directed that battle scene, but battling back in the day was between crews.
My God.
It was one crew against another crew, and that was the ultimate in excitement. Now, battling is between one dancer and another dancer. And it just doesn't have that same excitement. Another thing that I was disappointed about, and I think really hurt breaking's future in the Olympics, was how they organized it. And again, this is being organized by ballroom dancers, and what do they know? They had, if you remember, they had male B-boys competing all in one day, and they had female B-girls competing all in one day, which meant that and breaking, anybody knows anything about breaking, it's extremely strenuous thing. I mean, it's so hard to do. I was never a breaker, but I've been around enough of them to know that it takes so much energy to do it. So if you know this, because we all know, we've seen the Olympics 100 times, any kind of strenuous running or even swimming sports, you usually have these preliminaries. One day you're going to run the 100 or the 200 or the 400, which is so hard to do. On one day to cut down the amount of people that are going to get to run in the finals. The finals are in another day. You've had a couple of days to rest up, and now you've made it from the semifinals to the finals, and now here you are 2 days later after running your heart out a mile or 400 meters or whatever, something really strenuous. Now you're fresh, and you're ready to do your best performance in the 400 meters, having been rested and ready to go. You're not going to run the preliminary 400 and then the final 400 on the same day. But that's what they made the breakers do.
Yeah.
So what that meant was the breakers were doing what should have been their most important routines and moves and competing, moves and routines in the Olympics after they had done their preliminaries all within the same couple of hours. They were exhausted. They should have been doing their best moves rested. Instead, they were doing their hardest moves after they have been exhausted. And maybe that's the way, it works in Red Bull competitions or whatever. But it just showed the flaw of it, because when you saw the breakers in the finals, they just didn't have that same energy. They were exhausted. It was whack. So that really bothered me.
Thinking back, I do remember that. And I do remember, I never thought about it, but that's a great point. I never thought about the fact that, that would absolutely impact your performance. The fact that you're just, they should have given space between each performance.
And just a quick thing about Freddie. I think it's very arguable to say that without his contributions in spreading the culture through the city and then through the nation and through the world, it could have easily have been a very different culture. Mm-hmm. The way that Freddie not only spread the culture, but also put his impact, his own personal touch on it, and the way that he personally branded and presented and packaged the culture to the world, it could have easily been something very different without him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have happened anyway, but how it would have happened, I really can't say. His impact was so deep and so powerful.
And what's funny is, like, for me, seeing him on MTV, like, I had no real idea who he was. I just knew he was like a cool dude from New York. So, like, the images that he was spreading to the world was just there's some fly shit happening. But, like, you know, there wasn't really proper documentation or the internet back then. So right. it was like, if you know, you know, but otherwise this is a cool cat. And like now, not now, but, you know, like later in life, finding out like, oh, this guy is very important. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, super important.
Yeah.
So from 79 to 81, those 2 years, I had founded and created a band with Jean-Michel Basquiat called Gray.
Yes. Gray, I was going to get to it. We're going to talk about it a little bit. Yeah.
And so all this sort of comes before. Gray was a band that I started with Jean-Michel Basquiat in April 29th, 1979. And I know the date exactly because it was at a party that I had met him, a party that I had thrown with Fab Five Freddy and an English artist friend of mine named Stan Peskett at Stan Peskett's Loft. The point of the party was to introduce the Fabulous Five, which was a graffiti collective starring Lee Quiones, really, but it involved Lee Quiones, Fab Five Freddy, and Fab Five Freddy was not only an artist and writer of the Fabulous Five, but he was also their media spokesperson and really somebody who was so savvy about communication and about culture, and knew how to play the game. You know, born and bred New Yorker who saw the potential of graffiti and hip hop culture as it was reaching the masses. And so I had almost by accident met him through an article that I'd read in the Village Voice that he was being interviewed in, talking about the Fabulous Five and what they do. And they were rather prescient, meaning, you know, they were seeing into the future because, and this is very much, I'm sure, Fab Five Freddy's doing. In this article in the Village Voice, and this would have been 1978, the winter of 78, he was basically saying to the interviewer, hey, the Fabulous Five will come to your place of residence or your business and create giant graffiti murals or burners on your wall inside for X amount of dollars per square foot. And, you know, going back 1978, that's way looking ahead because at that point, for the most part, people thought of graffiti as vandalism and something that was done illegally on trains. I read that article. I reach out to him. He starts to join me and my friend Stan Peskett at Stan's Loft called the Canal Zone, and we start to plan this event. And the event is the Canal Zone party in tribute to the Fabulous Five, and it was meant to introduce the Fabulous Five and this one element of hip hop, meaning writing or graffiti, to the downtown art scene. And we organized this through the winter of 78, 79, and we finally get a date on April 29th, 1979. It was really meant for the New York Times to come. They never did show up, but the whole downtown art scene did. And it was really the first time that what an element of hip-hop, meaning graffiti or writing, would rub shoulders with the downtown art scene in a really appropriate way, because the downtown art scene was very much a visual arts movement, and graffiti was a visual arts movement. And so you had these two players, rubbing shoulders together.
This last nugget comes from my interview with Jake One. In the episode that was released, we cover his career and the tight beats phenomenon. Like the rest of these episodes, his interview was trimmed down and some of the most meaty parts were left on the bone. Like this part, where he talks about lo-fi beats, subgenres, and Tuxedo, which is his electro-funk outfit with Mayor Hawthorne. Okay, but seriously, do you think that lo-fi beats get a bad rap, or do you think that the way that people talk about them is justified?
I mean, I still in my brain try to understand what it really means. Like, is it, because all right, I'll be somewhere. Like, for instance, I was at this golf simulator place, and they'll be playing, very generic music. And I heard this beat that was basically a remake of Pete Rock and CO In the House, which is the first song on Main Ingredient. Yeah. But it was just so whack. All the parts of the Pete Rock thing that I liked, they ruined it. You know what I mean? It's a dude just scratching. There's hella sirens. And it's but why are we just remaking something that didn't need to be remade? It's great in its own way. It doesn't need to be touched. Right. I know, they say, Dilla's the godfather of, lo-fi beats, but, his shit was funky, and this shit ain't funky.
I've watched a bunch of, videos and documentaries explaining and read articles explaining, the origin of lo-fi hip-hop and how lo-fi hip-hop is made and all that shit. And, it's over-explaining a thing that doesn't really need that much explanation at the end of the day. But if I had to, summarize it, it's just a bunch of kids... I won't say kids, it's a bunch of people making the simplest version of a thing. I won't say it doesn't require skill, but it's definitely just get a Splice membership and you can make a beat type of deal.
Well, and I think there's this part where people love to take something that was already done and then reframe it. And basically it's 90s jazz rap without rappers.
Yep.
And then somehow that makes it more artistic, which is some bullshit. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just is. I do find it funny that there's my daughter likes anime a lot, and she's playing me one of the themes. It might have been from Demon Slayer, and they had a lo-fi version of the theme song. And it was kind of good. I'm not gonna lie. It was it wasn't bad.
I mean, I've absolutely put on a lo-fi beat channel before and just listen to it. The thing, it's so
what part of it makes you study better? That's the part I don't get. I mean,
I think that it gives you something to aggressively ignore so you can focus harder on another thing. I don't know, but they're again, it's a bunch of people over explaining shit, but they talk about scientific studies and how it affects a part of your brain, and it's just a bunch of people selling you it's like snake oil. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I mean, the crazy thing is there's probably dudes that are making these generic lo-fi beat things that are racking up millions and millions of plays, getting a gold record on Spotify with a, terrible remade Pete Rock beat or some shit, which is just insane to me.
Here's the other thing. You probably can't, but I was gonna say, do you know the name of any big lo-fi beat producer? The genre doesn't really have a face.
I'll even take it further. I don't know the name of anybody that doesn't make songs that I don't like. So
right.
There's a whole generation of guys that exist in 1 minute clips on Instagram where dudes playing cello, piano, guitar, drums, and it all fits together in this thing. But I'm but what song did you make? That's the thing that's gonna live forever. Your Instagram clip ain't.
So a lot of those, I've started looking up those producers. I see producers like that out,
and it should be good too. I'm not dissing. The shit is good.
Shit is funky, but it's just
you gotta make a song.
I think that there's this thing that happened where actually good musicians just started making content. Like instead of making the song first and then figuring out how to promote it, they promoted something first and didn't figure out how to make it into a thing. You know what I'm saying? It's a little backwards, but it's the thing about lo-fi that's fascinating is that a lot of, from what I've learned from these videos, a lot of people, it's not a track to notoriety or fame or popularity really, because the way that the distribution channels are set up for it is that you kind of have to be anonymous. Like the YouTube channels that are the big conduit spaces for it, they credit you, but nobody's like stopping YouTube to say, oh, what's this? It's all one long 5-hour beat. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not stopping at 3 hours and 29 minutes and be like, what was that? You're just letting that shit ride. You know what I'm saying?
What? Oh, yeah, it's a wild concept. I felt the same way like when instrumental rap kind of started in the I guess that'd be like mid to late 90s. To me, it's like very similar to that in that it's like, can we just strip rappers, aka black people, out of this?
Yeah.
So it's a little more comfortable for people that, don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, like it reminds me of how they would take the rap verses out of R&B records on the radio, shit like that. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
I just heard fucking Waterfalls the other day, and they took Lisa Left Eye, and I'm like, she's in the group. What are you doing?
Damn. Yeah, they took her out. That's cold blood. I could see if like you're like, yeah, let me take this Cameron verse from the R&B song out where he says something flagrant. But yeah, that's not the same thing.
So I guess I don't have to ask you if you've ever made a lo-fi beat.
I mean, I feel like I probably made many beats that qualify as lo-fi, but they weren't intended for those purposes, right?
I'm gonna dispel the myth. I'm gonna say you absolutely have, and it's probably because you recorded it to cassette, and that makes it inherently lo-fi.
Oh yeah, well, I could just upload my beat tape from like '98, and we definitely got some Fender Rhodes beats in there, some random horns echoing out. We got all that in there.
You don't need an RC20 plug-in to make the tape hiss. You know what I'm saying? It's just already saturated.
We got all that on deck, from the time, like every once in a while I'll be like, man, let me try to just make a beat like I used to. And I'm kind of surprised I can still do it. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
But there probably is something missing because I'm just not listening to that thing anymore.
Yeah. Again, you travel through life, you get new experiences and new inspirations, and the things you used to do, I won't say it's not as fun. You're just not as into the process as that process.
Well, I mean, it's like, I'm sure my dad, I remember I playing my dad, like, I know this is random as hell, but I played him like a E-Rule song. It wasn't even the one that was the hit. Was a Synopsis, the B-side. Because I remember thinking like, man, I think I heard you play this song before. And he's like, yeah, I mean, that's cool. It just, he guy's talking on it or whatever, but, I like the original song. I mean, it's probably how I'm going to feel about, somebody making a fake JD beat. Like, I want to hear the real,
Before we get on and leave this conversation, I got to ask you about Tuxedo. Because Tuxedo is one of those groups. I had these questions earlier, but I wanted to respect the time. I wanted to make it to 3:00. And now that we have like a couple minutes left, Tuxedo was a group that, like, there was a little bit of mystery to it initially. And I remember when I found out it was you, I lost my shit. I lost my mind. And I was like, what the fuck? This is fucking crazy. But it was something that it was so left field for me to hear you do that. And it made me realize, like, it made me go look back at your work and like, oh, he's big in funk anyway. He like funk, boogie, all that shit has been like in his DNA. Is there like a big funk scene in Seattle? Like, I need to know a little bit more about that.
I wouldn't say there's a big funk scene here. It's more just my childhood of being, on the block when the older guys were playing Cameo and stuff like that. This is the first music I really remember. So, Oops Upside Your Heads and stuff like that. So that's always just going to have a special place in my heart. And, it's just something, when I started making the beats for that, I was learning how to play keys a little bit. And it was just kind of the natural next thing I wanted to do because it was just a way to test, like, if I was getting better. And that I think I always would have went that way. At least I probably would have made more West Coast centric music in the earlier days, but I just didn't have the the knowledge of how to structure chords in any way, or understand the bass lines and scales. So it was just something I was messing around with. Honestly, it was just like I looked at it like a vacation. When I did a lot of that stuff, the first album, I was like wrapped up in 50 Cent world, and every beat had to be like, and you just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it all the time. So, I made some tracks. I met Mayor before he was Mayor, and he just happened to be into this same. We were not into the hits. This is the part a lot of people get confused. They think like, oh, you want to do like Prince and Michael Jackson? Like, yeah, that's the God tier, but that's not the shit I'm really. I mean, yeah, I like it, but I'm finding like the one song Blue Magic did like in '83 that I like. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's more of a niche thing in that way, and I think what we did that made Tuxedo different than the other guys doing that kind of stuff is we really combined it with the G-Funk, because when Warren G came out, when Snoop and those guys came out, they were sampling a lot of those records. And we were trying to find something that fit both of those. They could be Battle Cat, Leroy Burgess, Leon Silvers, all the influences that really made Tuxedo happen. I think that's, the hip hop part of it is definitely understated, but it's there.
Yeah, you can hear it. As a hip hop, as a person, I can hear it. I appreciate it
right.
As a band. My other question about it is, how did it come about? Did you have the beats and you were like, hey, Mayor, check these out? Or did you guys discuss, like, how did it form?
We DJ'd a party. He had this is before Mayor Hawthorne. We DJ'd a party with Dame Funk and YG actually for, this sounds real terrible, but I think it was sponsored by Cool Cigarettes.
Yeah, Cool was doing a lot of work. They were throwing a lot of money around. So yeah, that probably was.
So we did like a boogie party, I guess we were calling it at that time, and nobody came. But we, me and him just kind of hit it off, and we were just into the same shit as far as that. Yeah. So maybe fast forward a year later, I'd made the beat for Lost Lover and maybe one or two other things. Are You Ready For Me? And then he played me the first Mayor Hawthorne, Just Ain't Gonna Work Out. And I just remember being like really surprised, like, because I didn't know he was doing any of that. Yeah. And I just gave him a couple of those beats. I was like, you should do something like to these, but like, with the singing. And he recorded a couple of demos, but then he blew up. Mayor Hawthorne turned into a really big thing. So we would get together and make songs, for like 3-4 years even, when he was off a tour. And it wasn't necessarily going to be a group. Maybe some of it would get used for his album. Like a couple of the songs did end up going on Mayor Hawthorne albums, like Henny and Ginger Ale, which ended up being a really popular song, was a Tuxedo song.
Oh, shit. Okay, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And this other one, Designer Drug, was a Tuxedo song. So those kind of came out first as a test. And then I'd say like in 2014, Daft Punk came out with Get Lucky and Bruno Mars came out with Treasure. And we had these songs on deck. And I remember being like, man, they're going to beat us to this shit. Like because we knew we had something because everybody wanted it. Like my friends wanted it, like, yo, let me get a copy of that. They weren't asking that about my hip hop shit in the same way. So we threw a couple of them out on SoundCloud and the reaction was so good. We were like, all right, I guess we're doing an album.
Yeah.
It just really happened that way. And like, I think at that point of the internet, people could discover you and choose you in a way that it's a little harder now to like get the spotlight on you, That's a really good point, because I didn't know that the songs went back that far. Like I thought that the chronology was a little different, but like Lost Lover was, I think, 2008.
Wow.
2001.
Because again, like I know that Mayor Hawthorne with the Just Ain't Gonna Work Out and everything. I know that at least the folklore goes that it was just kind of some stuff he was fucking around and he sent it over and it worked out, pun intended. And it sounds like it was the same with Tuxedo. It's just some shit
for sure. But yeah, it was like one of these things where, because of the success of Mayor Hawthorne, it kind of like stalled out what we were doing. And I mean, honestly, it wasn't like an expectation like this is going to be a thing. We were just fucking around, And I think that's what leads to the best shit.
Always.
Because we wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, we got to make this so we can go on tour. Like, I didn't think I would ever go on tour doing this, playing keys and singing background. This guy's got me dancing. Like, all this shit happened so fast. And, you know, I didn't really know what I was doing like the first year. It was like they just threw me in the fire. You know, like our first show was for like 800 people or something. So, I mean, I was rattled. I'm not going to lie. I was super rattled up there. So it's crazy. You know, we're 8-9 years later and it's still going is a trip. Like, we're still doing gigs. We haven't put out an album in 4 years. So that's the cool thing about doing something that's unique that, like, everybody, I don't think anybody could quite do it the way we do it.
Yeah.
For better, for worse. You know what I mean? There's just a unique thing that we're doing.
That's a true full circle moment and a great way to end it, because you were saying how, as a rapper, you've never rapped on stage. And as a member of Tuxedo, you've been trial by fire. You're still going. That's beautiful, man. And that's it for this week. If you're new here and just tuning in, there are full interviews with these guests and many more waiting for you to dive into. So go ahead and run back some of them old episodes. And for those of you that have been here the whole time, you already know. Stick around after the credits for a little something extra. The Almanac of Rap is created and hosted by Donwill. Executive producers are Donwill, Aisha Sese, and Travis Harris. The show is produced by Kobe Bafor. The show's associate producers are Brianna Harris, Tiara Jackson, and Javon Stevenson. The production coordinator is Bianca Ortiz. Audience development is handled by Hassan Spruill and Ashawn McCullen. Ad ops and audio marketing strategy is handled by Fabian Mickens. The show is directed by Travis Harris. Video editing was done by Kobe Bafor. Our social media producers are Taylor McGee and Michael Mays Jr. This episode of the show was written by Donwill. Art direction for the show was handled by Kaushik Kaladendi. Graphic design was done by Jefferson Harris. The show's camera operators are Travis Harris, Kobe Bafor, Trigger Bowden, and Compton Timberwolf. Compton's also our technical director and audio engineer. The show's theme music was provided by Donwill, with additional production in each episode by Von P. Donwill also doesn't think that speaking about himself in the third person is that weird anymore, which is honestly pretty weird. All right, so if you're a longtime listener, you'll know that I tell a new joke at the top of each episode. And here's a collage of every joke that I told in season 1. Welcome to the Almanac of Rap, a show about hip-hop that's pretty much just empty calories. A show for people who get to the theater early for the trailers and stick around to see if there's a post-credit scene. A show that actually just wants to sing. A show that still sells CDs out the trunk. A show that'll never go solo. A show whose acronym would be a paragraph long. A show that considers every month to be Black History Month. The show that shows love. All right, if you got any comments, questions, or compliments, call me at 877-DON-WILL. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time on the Almanac of Rap.